Hello, my name's Paul, welcome to Kit Guru, and today I'll be reviewing the Max Obsidian. Now it's a mid-tower ATX case and it's targeted towards the budget end of the spectrum. So this case retails for about £50. But let's see how it holds up. Okay, so starting with the overall appearance of the case, we can see that it's not very exciting. So it's got a plain black panel at the front, no optical drive cutouts, no fan vents, no front I/O, not even a logo actually. It does however have a brushed wooden effect, which is quite nice. It's also made out of quite high quality plastic, which is good. And the rest of the case is made out of steel, which is also good. Don't worry too much about airflow, because even though there's no vents located at the front, there are right down the sides of the side panel, and with a good gap in between them and the fans, so that will allow enough air to travel through. If we move to the top of the front panel, we can see the I/O, which contains your 4 USB ports, 2 of which are 2.0, 2 of them are 3.0, your audio jacks, your power and reset switch, and a fan controller, which I'll get into a bit later. Also at the top of the case, you've got more ventilation and also fan and radiator mounting holes, which you can slightly conceal using an included magnetic dust filter. So you just pop it on and it sticks on, nice and simple. When we move to the side of the case, we can see that Max didn't go for the decision to make the whole side panel transparent, but instead opting for a central acrylic window rather than the whole thing being covered. This does make it easier keeping fingerprints off it, because obviously you can hold it by the bits that aren't acrylic. Another thing that you'll notice about the window is that it's very clear, so you don't have to illuminate the case with lots of LED lights because it's not tinted at all, so you can see right through it. If we flip the case over, you have some metal feet which are quite nice, very sturdy, and a removable dust filter for the PSU. Okay, so I don't mind how this case actually looks, because it kind of means I can have it in an office and it not look too gamery and, you know, glowing lights everywhere. The most unconventional thing about this case is probably the side window. That's the only thing that would really tell it apart from just your typical office PC. But I like the way they added the brushed effect on the front, so that gives it a little bit of something. But enough about the looks. What can you actually put in this thing? Okay, once you remove the side panel, we can clearly see that there's a lot of room for decent sized hardware in this case. So the max GPU clearance is about 360mm, and you also have 170mm height clearance for a CPU cooler. So you won't probably have trouble fitting any of those in here, seeing as that is quite a lot of space. Okay, so you can mount up to a 280 radiator in the front, or alternatively 3 120mm fans or 2 140mm fans. To install the fans on the front, all you have to do is remove the front panel, just pull it from the bottom and it pops off. You'll also find another dust filter here, similar to the one located on the top of the case. It's just a magnetic dust filter. Just pull it off, and then you can see all the holes to mount a fan or radiator or whatever you choose. Now there's also room for another 280 radiator at the top. I used a 240 radiator here though, which fit absolutely fine, no problems there, and I didn't have any clearance issues. If you don't want to bother mounting a radiator in this position at all, you can mount yet another 2 120mm fans or 2 140mm fans. There's one more radiator mount at the back where you can mount a 120 or 140 also. Now this case does have actually quite a vast amount of hard drive options. You've got space to mount 2.5 or 3.5 inch drives on the top of the power supply shroud, which uses a bracket system, which is seen on a lot of cases. Just remove the bracket, attach the hard drive, then slide it back in and secure it with a thumb screw. Nice and simple. There's another 2 brackets like this located behind the motherboard as well, but you won't be able to mount a 3.5 inch drive on these because it will overhang from the case and you won't be able to put the side panel back on. Also at the back of the case you have your more traditional hard drive cage located in front of the power supply. Pretty typical location. And this can contain up to 3 3.5 inch drives or 3 2.5 drives. This hard drive cage is completely removable. You need to remove about 9 screws, so 5 at the top and 4 at the bottom, and then it will pop off So this will allow you to fit a larger power supply in there, or at least get room to the cables. If you want to remove it, then reinstall it later. I did measure the power supply at 180 millimeters with the hard drive cage in. So just a quick note. Now, cable management was a bit lackluster. There needs to be more routing holes closer to the motherboard. In my case, I was using an ATX motherboard. Micro ATX might have been a bit better. And some of the routing holes are just hard to get to, especially the ones at the top. I found it hard getting the 8-pin CPU connection in, because it was hidden behind like a lip of the case, so it made it quite difficult to route. Also, a bit more clearance between the motherboard tray and the side panel would have been nice, because if you're not using flat PSU cables, it can make it quite difficult to slide the side panel back on. But hey, at least the hard drives were quite easy to install. But the most annoying thing about cable management in this case is definitely the motherboard cutout not being quite large enough. So what I mean by that is my CPU backplate, I had to remove the motherboard to actually insert this because the cutout wasn't big enough. That was not fun. Now, as I mentioned before, this case does include a fan controller. It's located at the back of the case and can support up to 6 fans. Now, the connection's only 3-pin, therefore the controller on the front panel is a simple switch that has 2 speeds, high and low, but you can also stop them completely if you want to. Now, the fan controller could have done with a bit more quality control, because I couldn't figure out why my fans weren't working on the high speed, and it turns out that the white connection here was a bit loose, so I had to cable tie it kind of down to keep it from unpinning from the pins. So just a quick warning if that happens to you. Okay, so before I did the temperature checks, I installed 2 120mm fans in the front. So for temperature testing, I used the following system. And I stressed the system using IDA 64 and Unigine Heaven running simultaneously for about 10 minutes. I left the fan speed on high. Now, my results were quite good. Remember, this is with 2 fans installed at the front. The hottest I saw the GPU go to was 66, and the hottest I saw the CPU go to was about 39. Now, I also did another test, taking the fans off the front and just giving you the temperatures of the case, how it comes out the box. So just 1 exhaust fan in it, and then plus my cooler with the radiator. I didn't see too much of a difference in temperatures. There was a big difference between the idle GPUs in both results, but I leave that down to when I turned the system on, it was a fresh start and the GPU was probably cooler to start with. So there's not much difference between them. This might just be because my GPU is quite small and it's a long distance away from the fan. A longer GPU might benefit more. But all in all, I'm happy with the temperatures, nice and cool. Okay, so to conclude what I think of this case, it's functional. So for £50 you get quite a lot. You get lots of hard drive storage, options to mount to reasonably large radiators in the front and the top. But there are a couple of things that I don't understand. So why they included 1 fan in this case, I'm not sure. I think 2 would have been nice, at least so you could have 1 for the intake and 1 for the exhaust. The power supply routing again could have been a lot better. Maybe if you added just a bit more depth between the motherboard backplate and the actual side panel, that would have helped a lot as well. And don't even get me started on the motherboard cutout not being big enough, so you have to remove the motherboard if you ever want to change the backplate on your CPU. But besides that, I do like this case in the sense that it's not too gamery, so it's not going to really stand out in your living room or wherever you decide to put it in your office. It's quite discreet and it does do the job. The problem is at £50 there are so many cases in that price range which could probably just about do an equal good job. Obviously I haven't reviewed them all, but if you go to any website you will see loads of cases in this range. So for a budget build, I don't really have any problems recommending this case. It seems perfectly fine for your average PC slash gaming PC, but I wish they would do something to make it stand out from the crowd a bit more. So thank you for watching. My name's Paul. Please subscribe to Kit Guru and have a nice day.